Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I presume you're all expecting to see a woman in a dress addressing you now. That is my colleague Tina Roach, who unfortunately sends her most sincere apologies, but she had to attend to a slightly urgent personal affair. So I'm more than happy to step into her role. I have to say it's quite a challenge for you to focus on this with that great party going on the side. So I have to say I really feel for you. But I'm sure that the topic that we are trying to discuss this afternoon will be as interesting and as exciting as it is to us as it will be to you. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about in my initial intervention. First, I would like to talk to you about my organisation, business in the community, and in general about corporate responsibility in Ireland, and just some general thoughts. And secondly, I would like to talk to you about the whole issue of human rights and corporate responsibility, and where do they sort of meet or talk to each other, if at all. So let me first start by telling you a little bit about business in the community. We are a non-profit organisation. We're a business network, and we have 65 member companies. Up to a couple of weeks ago, and after being in existence for 10 years, we had no law firms as members. So I'm sure we can discuss that later on as well if you're interested. One very courageous law firm has stepped up to the plate and has joined us as a member, so I'm sure and I hope that they will see a lot of benefits resulting out of their engagement with us. But I mean, above and beyond whether they are working with business and community or not, the whole issue of corporate responsibilities is of huge importance to businesses, and I'll touch upon that on a second. As I said before, we're a membership body, and we have been working on this area for a number of years. When we started with business in the community, our discussion was very much about corporate philanthropy and what at the time used to be called the chairman's wife's charities, and what were businesses going to do in terms of distributing and having some element of positive impact on communities. And that moved very, very quickly more into a structured approach, which was around how can this corporate responsibility, whatever it's called, where we're treating our employees nicely, or whether we're having programs to recycle our waste or buy from green electricity, is going to add value to our business. And Michael made a very interesting point about tendering, and more public and private tendering is asking for companies, what is your organization's alignment to social and environmental principles and practices, and how is that making an impact on your bottom line? Because and like you know, for years people would have said, you know, you have to have a corporate responsibility program, you have to have a corporate responsibility strategy, you have to, you know, to be seen as being active in this space. I think an American academic who are very direct people put it very, very clearly when she said corporate responsibility is not about how you spend your money, but it's about how you make your money. So to us that's a critical thing, and I would really like to believe that in 10 years maybe our organization would have ceased to exist, because it has achieved its function, and it has made that it's not about having a corporate responsibility manager in a corporate responsibility department that is doing corporate responsibility things, but that corporate responsibility, or responsible business practice as we're calling it today, is the normal way in which any business operates. And that if there was any message, that would be the most important to me. Last November, in the middle of the crisis, well, we're still in the middle of a crisis, but last November we asked 100 top Irish CEOs what they thought about corporate responsibility. 86% of them told us that they believed corporate responsibility would help Ireland rebuild its corporate reputation, and 64% of them told us that they believed that having a strategic approach to corporate responsibility would contribute to their organization's competitive advantage. So again, it's not just as I was told by a very senior business person a couple of weeks ago, the fluffy thing, or the nice to have, or what we do when we have money in the middle of the Celtic Tiger, but it's very critically about how this business is being managed efficiently and strategically, and it's making a positive contribution. quick point about shareholders, which we were talking at the beginning. More and more shareholders are asking for this type of information, and I know if you go to the Irish Stock Exchange and if you ask some of the traders, they'll probably tell you not at all. We're only worrying about the return we're going to get at the end of the day, not even at the end of the week or of the month. That's all we care about. But if you talk to people in the Norwegian pension fund, which is one of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world, they have a very strict social and environmental investment policy, and that is practiced very actively, and they have exercised extreme pressure in businesses, many of them in the UK, over some of their practices, and they have used their investment to influence this, and this is definitely a growing movement. So I think that's the other thing, maybe just to note, is that in case you're wondering, practicing corporate responsibility or having an approach to corporate responsibility is not mandatory per se. Companies are not required by law to disclose about their practices in this area. At the European level, that is the case. However, we have indications that will change as of next year, and there might be a recommendation to change, to make amendments to the company reporting regulations to include requirements for disclosure of this type of information. However, in countries like Denmark and in France, and in Sweden as well, there's very specific regulation requiring companies to disclose data in this area. In Sweden, for instance, all state-owned companies are obliged by law to issue social and environmental sustainability reports. In countries like Spain and Germany, for instance, there's a very clear action plan at government level as to how corporate responsibility should be articulated and developed in businesses. In countries like Italy, there are, in the Tuscan region, for instance, there are tax incentives for businesses that have a very clear demonstration of, for instance, working in the area of promoting employee welfare. So evidently, it is a mishmash, and I would have to say we were asked a lot last year and in 2009 as well. You know, the crisis has come, so corporate responsibility is over. Evidently, you have no time. You have to get rid of people, and you have to, you know, be more efficient, and you know, we only want value for money and that sort of thing. The companies that have been doing this seriously and for a number of years see what the value is for their employees, for their reputation, for attracting customers, for the tendering, or even for managing their own costs. So very clearly see there's a value in doing this and have continued to do so. The ones that were kind of using corporate responsibility as a PR spin and would have the nice sort of press releases with the nice happy smiling kids with a big check, maybe you'll see much less of that. But just a point on the legal profession and how they can interact on this whole area. I think law firms have huge skills within their offices, and through pro bono, but there are an immense amount of examples where we have worked with companies on how they can use the skills to benefit community organizations, to work on environmental projects and so forth and so on. So I think there is a huge benefit there, and also in terms of promoting the reputation of your firms to clients, including governments and local authorities, etc., that would look at this with a lot of interest, because they want to make sure that they are engaging with companies that somehow share the same values and ways of working as they do.